to Friday's version of Take 5, the end of the week and the end of a section, where we've been taking 5 minutes of Jesus' words in Sermon on the Mount and seeing how they apply to our lives. And I think the ethics and the content of Sermon on the Mount have been very applicable. I hope you found it so as well. The end of the sermon now, as we looked at yesterday, is Matthew's summary of the message and how it was received. And he says something really interesting. And what I've challenged us is to evaluate Matthew's words with the way we listen not only to Jesus' words, but even to the way we listen to sermons today. Here's what he says, and I'll read Matthew 7, 28, 29. When Jesus had finished these sayings, when he finished the Sermon on the Mount, the crowds were astonished at his teachings, for he was teaching them as one who had authority and not as their scribes. They were astonished at Jesus. He attracted a crowd. He had a skill about him. He had an aura about him, not just his healing, but that included it at times. But they were astonished by him. But the other word is authority. He taught with one who had true authority, not just like the scribes is what they said. The scribes would read books and would read commentaries on the law and on the Old Testament, and then they would just tell you what they read about. Not a whole lot of authority there, just here's what it says. Jesus came with the authority of God, and so he could say, you've heard it said, don't be angry, but I tell you, you've heard it said, don't murder, but I tell you, watch your anger. You've heard it said, don't commit adultery, and I tell you, watch your lust. And so he came with a real authority. And so that's the way we ought to, when we read the scriptures, when we read Jesus' teachings, we can be astonished like, man, he was smarter than anybody I've ever seen. And boy, did he communicate well, whether it's with parables or how he talked about end times or any of Jesus' teachings. Yes, we can be astonished by Jesus' teachings. But then we ought to really reflect and say, man, he's got authority. And his authority is what tells me how to live. And so that authority is not just to enjoy what he said, but then to put it into practice. I've got to behave in that manner. So let me give you something. I came up with 5 things of how you should listen to sermons today. You ready for this? Whether you're listening to mine or a podcast or somebody else's. 5 things. Okay, ready? Be prepared spiritually. And so let's say you're listening to a sermon on Sunday morning. You're going to church, or maybe you're listening to a live stream these days. Be prepared spiritually. And that means, oftentimes it means, what are you doing on Saturday? And are you preparing your heart to meet the Lord on Sunday? Is Saturday evening a time of preparation? Saturday evening, a time of preparation for Sunday morning. Sunday morning as well, as you're getting ready, whether you're on your way to church or if you're just watching live stream, you're preparing your heart to hear more than just some intellectual teaching about the scriptures. You're preparing your heart to hear from God. So, number 1, be prepared spiritually. Number 2, this goes with number 1, expect God to speak. As whoever is speaking, as they open up the text of Scripture, it's more than just the familiar pastor, me or somebody else, that's teaching you. As they're opening up the Scriptures, expect God to speak, because they're using the Scriptures. Be prepared spiritually. Expect God to speak. Number 3, admit that God knows more than you. It sounds kind of silly, but at times when you hear whether it's really deep teaching on theology that doesn't make sense, or is challenging you, convicting your own heart, where you want to say, yeah, but you don't know my situation, or just admit that God knows more than you. And so even though I might not be able to put this together intellectually, or I might not want to obey it morally because you don't know my situation, admit God knows more than you. Be prepared spiritually. Expect God to speak. Know that God knows more than you. Admit that. When you hear me or somebody else teach, here's a question you should ask. Ask, where did he get that? And so if you're listening to a speaker who often doesn't open the scriptures and just tells stories or gets principles, and again, I don't want to be Joe Judge here, but when a person is teaching you on a Sunday morning, ask, where did they get it? Now, not in a critical way, just making sure that they are biblical. The pastor's authority comes from the teaching of the scriptures. That's where the authority comes from. Where did he get it? And then fifthly, really important, ask, what am I supposed to do? And what am I supposed to believe? One or the other. What am I supposed to do with what I just heard? And what am I supposed to believe with what I just heard? Either one of those is going to be the application. It might be cognitive. Actually, this Sunday sermon, for example, that I'm preparing out of Isaiah 11 is very cognitive. What am I supposed to believe? And sometimes it's very action-oriented. What am I supposed to do? These ones at the end of the Sermon on the Mount were astonished because Jesus had such authority. So I don't know if they were prepared spiritually. You should be. Be prepared spiritually when you read the Sermon on the Mount, when you hear a sermon. Be prepared spiritually. Expect God to speak. Admit that God knows more than you. Ask, where did he get that? We know where Jesus got it. Where does the guy on Sunday get it? Where did he get that? And then fifthly, ask, what am I supposed to do or what am I supposed to believe? Okay, I'm done. We've gone over 5 minutes. On Monday, come on back. We're continuing Take 5, and I'm going to do a series of passages that all prepare us for Advent, okay? So I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. That's it. I'm out.